the Metro Nashville Public Schools Board of Education. Dr. Battle.
Got to do the pledge first.
I thought you meant from the very beginning. Okay, yes. So we have a quorum here. We do not have a quorum yet.
Run to the bathroom. They're coming right.
We'll take about a 2-minute break. Feel free to step away if you need to prepare. No, you're good.
She made it.
Okay.
Let me tell y'all. She is something else.
Let me tell you.
I love her.
Can we just go set Marsha Blackburn on fire?
Oh, we doesn't care. She doesn't care.
I've been CNN all day and
She's so good. Yeah.
No, take your time. It looks like everybody needs her shirt.
Thank you. I'm going to bed now.
What is it? We had network update call.
Ebenezer.
It is warm in here. It is.
Good afternoon, and thank you all again. We appreciate your grace as we have rolled out of our second committee meeting for the evening, and we are beginning, yet again, the second March meeting in 2022 of the Metro Nashville Public Schools Board of Education here in Nashville. We have established a quorum with 2 missing. 1 may be dialing in as he is out of state. I would love to have Dr. Sue Kessler of Hunters Lane. Would you mind coming to the podium and leading us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kessler. I would love to see a motion on the floor around the adoption of the agenda.
Approval of the agenda.
Second.
All right, we have moved and seconded. Any changes to the agenda?
I would like to pull policy 1.404 for discussion.
1.404, okay. That's 1C, bullet 1.404. No, you're fine.
That was the same thing I was going to ask for, so.
All right. So if you wouldn't mind rescinding your motion and making another one for the amended agenda.
Amend my motion. Move approval of the agenda with the said exception.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please raise your hand. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Our agenda is adopted with the amendment. We will now move on to awards and recognitions. Dr. Battle, could you tell us a bit about Mcgavock High School's ambassadors?
Thank you, Madam Chair. At this time, I would like to invite up Jennifer Bell, our Director of Academies of Nashville, to introduce our ambassadors who are here with us this evening. We'll be graced and we'll hear from the ambassadors at Hunters Lane High School and also Mcgavock High School.
Thank you, Dr. Battle. Thank you, Board. As always, I appreciate the opportunity for our student ambassadors to come up and share their experience with you all each month. And so tonight, we've got some incredible ambassadors from Hunters Lane, our Hunters Lane Warriors, and our Mcgavock Raiders. And so I will invite Kimberly of Hunters Lane to come and kick us off.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kimberly Gonzalez. I'm a senior in the Digital Art and Design pathway at the Academy of Design and Tech at Hunters Lane High School. I think one of the really great things that I have been a part of in my pathway is helping to design with the school's memory book. Every year, we work with the Academy of Hospitality, Marketing, and Business to create and produce a memory book for all the students of Hunters Lane High School. Before, our yearbooks cost $100, which of course no one wanted to pay $100 for a yearbook. But now with the help of our students and different academies at Hunters Lane, we're able to afford a $20 memory book so that all of our students can afford and have one and to remember the time as a warrior. Another opportunity that is really unique to our pathway is the chance to earn a dual credit through NOC College of Art and an industry certification through Adobe Photoshop. If we pass the industry certification, we will automatically receive college credit. Even though I am in the Academy of Design and Tech, I also take IB college courses, which one of them is IB Spanish, which will allow me to also get college credit. I am grateful for these opportunities that have been handed to me, and after graduating high school, I do plan to attend Austin Peay State University and study business. Thank you so much for your time.
Hello, good evening. My name is Maylene Garcia, and I am a senior in the Academy of International Baccalaureate at Hunters Lane High School. The IB program is a worldwide recognized curriculum that focuses on the multicultural understanding in a rapid changing world. A major part of the IB curriculum is the extended essay, a 4,000-word essay on a topic of our choosing. I chose to write about fast fashion and its impact on the environment and society. I have always been interested in fashion and became curious as to how this industry has grown and impacted the world. While writing, I was able to connect the knowledge I learned in my environmental systems and society class on how the fashion industry negatively contributed to the pollution and the mistreatment of humans. With this knowledge, I was able to come up with solutions on how we can improve the conditions in which clothing is made and how we can mitigate the dehumanization and pollution this industry causes. In this academy, I've had the best experiences with finding teachers that encouraged me to become a better version of myself. My ESS teacher, Ms. Hoyle, has significantly made a change in my character. She has displayed what a well-rounded individual looks like by being a caring, open-minded, and curious person. I have become a risk taker as teachers have encouraged me to step out of my comfort zone and experience new things in hopes of learning and meeting new people. Being surrounded by such amazing teachers has helped me accomplish many goals and become a well-rounded individual ready to contribute to society. The thought of high school is quite frightening. However, I feel that being part of the IB Academy, it has given me the skills and strength to adventure out into the world. I have been blessed with the full ride to Belmont University through the expansion of Bridges to Belmont, which I am so grateful for, and I will be majoring in biochemistry in hopes of becoming an orthodontist. I hope and plan to always put a smile on people's faces, as the world could always use a bit of joy. Thank you.
Thank you, and And I will say that as we recognize many of our schools in our last board meeting for Tennessee Pathways, Hunters Lane High School was a recipient of Tennessee Pathway certification. I will say that one of the greatest strengths the reviewers said about Hunters Lane is that they provided a personalized experience for each of their students, which as we look at every student known, that was indicated and evident at Hunters Lane. So kudos to them. Before I invite up from Mcgavock High School, I do want to introduce the team to our new academy coach at Mcgavock High School, Miss Asa Bradley. With that being said,
good evening. My name is Om Patella, and I'm a senior at Mcgavock High School. I'm part of the Aviation and Transportation Academy, and my pathway is mechatronics. And I would like to give you guys a brief overview of my high school experience. Throughout my entire high school career, I've had very supportive teachers which have helped me grow as a person and shaped who I am today. I would like to give a special shout out to my teachers, Mr. Lawless, Ms. Pope, Mr. Young, and Ms. Tan. Throughout my high school career, my pathway has offered me 2 certifications, the OSHA certification and the Yaskawa certification. I'm very grateful for these certifications because these certifications have helped me define who I am, and it has also opened the doors for jobs at Nissan. After high school, I plan on pursuing college at UT Knox and majoring in mechanical engineering. I believe it will provide me the life skills and education I need to have a successful career.
Good evening. Okay, my name's Kadeja Summers. I'm a senior at Mcgavock High School, and my pathway is flight, and my academy is also aviation and transportation. I would like to say some stuff about my academy. We learn about flight, how the weather works when you're flying planes, and then also we do have flight simulators when you learn how to fly the plane and stuff, and I think it's a really cool academy. Personally, as good as it is learning it, I did find out that I did not want to pursue that, but I think it's a good experience because when you experience something different, it opens you up. And then also my old teacher, Mr. Rowe, he used to teach us that you can be a pilot, you can also be a doctor. You can be a pilot, you can also be a director. You can be a pilot, you can be a dentist, somewhere at the dentist. And I think it's a really cool thing about that. And then my high school experience, I'm someone that deals with anxiety and things like that. You see, I'm shaking and nervous. But I think my counselor and my teachers really helped me through that, and even my academy itself, because it opened me up to new doors. And as one of the Hunters Lane ambassadors were saying, how pushing me out of my comfort zone, this is definitely out of my comfort zone, but it's definitely a great experience. And I'm also a Belmont scholar as well, so. And I'm going to study motion pictures and become a film director because I really want to share my story through film. So.
Dr. Battle, with your permission, may we take a photo with the students and the ambassadors?
Absolutely. Come on up. Ms. Masters, if.
Who's McGavock? Yep, I'll step in. Sure.
Could you stand in, please? We'd appreciate it.
What I do. That's what I do.
All right, we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you for coming. Really, really nice. Let me take a
I looked at Hank and I was like, fade away, fade away. Camera 3, go to camera 3. Lord.
Everybody.
Oh my
You know, you see the excitement on my face. I was like, improper, but it's a funny joke. It's a funny joke. Yeah, go right ahead.
All right, again, thank you, Jennifer Bell, our Director of Academies, and team. Thank you for your great work. It's always awesome to hear from our Academy ambassadors and hearing their stories and their plans after they graduate from high school. Thank you also to the administrators who are here, Academy coaches, for all of your continued support of our students. The first thing I will kind of highlight, we heard a couple of our students speak on them being Bridges to Belmont or Bell Tower scholars moving forward, and we will be recognizing all 50 of them at an upcoming board meeting. So we will celebrate together, and the good news is you will just hear about more of them because there were more scholarships this year than years past. Also, before I jump into a quick COVID update, I want to give a huge shout out to our East Nashville Eagles boys basketball team. We'll be celebrating them as well at an upcoming board meeting, but the most important thing is that they brought that gold ball for 2A boys basketball home to Nashville this weekend. And we're so proud of them, so proud of their coaches, their administrators, their teachers, their parents. Nashville showed up big in Murfreesboro on Saturday. So again, congratulations and kudos to that community. Again, thank you, Chair Buggs, board members, for giving me just a moment just to speak before we dig into our new report tonight, which I'm excited to hear about. But in lieu of a director's report tonight, we'll be welcoming the Parent Advisory Council to present their annual report. Before we do that, I wanted to provide a COVID-19 update per our conversation at the last board meeting, but it will be brief. As there was only one case reported throughout the district last week during spring break. From a community context, the positivity rate has dropped to 2.8% in Nashville, and the 7-day average of cases per 100,000 residents is down to 4.5. The CDC risk index shows Davidson County at a low risk. We'll continue to monitor the situation relative to COVID throughout the coming weeks with an update in my director's report at the next board meeting on April 12th. And with that, Madam Chair, we'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Battle and team. Mrs. Masters, the Parent Advisory Council and their annual report, this has been something you have advocated for staunchly and have certainly supported our parents in developing. Would you mind introducing them and taking it away?
Would be my pleasure. So tonight we will welcome officers from the Parent Advisory Council to give their annual report. They reconvened. It's an organization that's been in existence since 1980-something. 86, I think, but sort of fell off a little bit during the pandemic. They reconvened while we were still virtual, held elections, put officers in place, have been working really hard to get representatives for every cluster. I also have to give a shout out here to the MNPS Family and Community Engagement team. They just are amazing. And so Mariana Merritt wasn't able to be here in person tonight, but I wanted to be sure to mention her and all of the hard work that she has put in, along with all of the team working with the PAC. I mean, they don't just have their cluster meetings and their town halls. They also have planning sessions for all of those cluster meetings and town halls. And then they go and talk with folks at the chamber and convince them to give them things. And they go and they talk to the NPEF and they do screenings of the film and do their own Q&A around it. I mean, the level of activity is just really phenomenal. I want to name all of the officers before. I don't know who's going to actually give the report. Is BB going to give the report? It's BB. So Miss BB Hines is our PAC chair. Kevin Walker is our PAC vice chair. Y'all wave your hands. Don Johnson, PAC secretary. Dr. Berthina Naba-McKinney is another PAC secretary, helping us get the cluster coordinators on board. And then I also would like to thank Tanya Hancock for joining us tonight. She is, as I am the board liaison for the PAC, she represents Metro Council as a liaison to PAC and is also an MNPS parent as well. So thank you for being here. And so I won't go on anymore, except that I really like this group. I think they're not just the Parent Advisory Council, they're the Parent Advocacy Council. They've really stepped into that space so well, and I'm excited for BB to share with you what they've done over the course of the past year.
All right, so that was the report, so I'm just going to show my face and so thank you. All right. Thank you, Chair Buggs, school board members, and Director of MNPS Schools, Dr. Battle, for this opportunity to address you today. We don't have any slides. We don't have any data. We're all feelings, and you can't quantify feelings, so we don't have any pretty presentations. My name's Elizabeth Hines, and I'm the current chair of the MNPS PAC. Yesterday, we submitted our annual report to Ms. Masters, to Ms. Merritt, and to Councilmember Hancock. I hope that the report's been added to the agenda for tonight.
I emailed it to everyone. Yep.
Looking at it right now.
All right, so today I'd like to address any questions, concerns, or feedback that you have for this current PAC officers and PAC leaders. And we hope that, this is the beginning of a tradition where the PAC will have a chance to address the board, once a year in this format. Before we begin, though, I'd like to mention the PAC leaders who are in the room with us. So we have Erica Lanier. She is our liaison to charter schools. Tanya Hancock, our Metro Council liaison. She's in the Mcgavock and Hunters Lane cluster. And Marie Farmer. You guys coming? She's not here yet. She's on her way. And Kevin Walker, he's coming up. Just come so they can see you. Bethina and Minnie Bethina. No, not Minnie Bethina. And her son. We had some other parents really want to be here tonight, but they had a schedule conflict. So we're all representing, Kevin, myself, and Erica, we ran for the same position, actually, back in March. And after the election was over, we decided that, we still need to work together. I'm in the Overton cluster. My children in elementary school, Kevin Mcgavock, he's in the high school level, and Erica is in a charter school. And we're very different in our needs and wants and beliefs, but we believe that as parents, it's our job to set an example. And so that's what we were trying to do. So everyone's here tonight to answer any questions that you have regarding the roles they've played. So you guys can have a seat for now, and we didn't practice any of this. So I just want to appreciate our parents coming out tonight for this meeting at 5 p.m. on a Tuesday, which is not easy for most of our parents. Most of our parents watch the board meetings from their homes or from work, or they watch it days after on the Metro Nashville channel. So we appreciate that. We hope that doesn't go away, because what usually happens afterwards is parents will say, did you see this at the board meeting? Can you ask about that? So having that, all of that on file and available to parents is very helpful. So as I mentioned to the board months ago, our primary goal for this school year was focused on parent and family retention. In March 2001, we had just come out, we came on as board officers. We'd been shut down, we'd been shut off. We were all generally confused. We'd gone through a tornado, pandemic, derecho, the Christmas bombing, attacks, protests, and we lost lives, we lost property, we lost jobs, lots of power outages. I know in my neighborhood we had lots of power outages, loss of income, just general loss. It was so bad. You longed for like the days of the mayor scandal and all the other stuff. It made that stuff look simple. But I mean, I laugh now, but it was terrible. It was terrible. And many of us were navigating virtual school, some of us successfully, some unsuccessfully. We were all trying to cope. We're trying to remain calm and sane in unfamiliar environment. And parents had to rely on Dr. Battle and her team's vision, and we all had to follow blindly. We had to rely on existing trusts that we had with each other. Some of us just had to rely on fate. There was a lot of unknowns. And so I think we've come a long way. So many of us have blocked out some of that trauma from March 2020 to March 2021 and even till today. And that's normal to block that out to protect yourself. But I think that it's important that we remember where we were and where we are today. And we know that the leadership that we have before us today is what's led us to where we are today. And so we truly do appreciate that. And I haven't even mentioned some of the man-made roadblocks that we have faced, whether it be from the Capitol, from everywhere. And MNPS is, the role that the PAC is trying to play is not to be critics. We want to be partners. We know that you already have enough critics, so we don't want to add to that. Our goal this year was to help reintroduce MNPS to all parents, new parents, existing parents, happy parents, sad parents, discouraged parents. Again, it was just to get parents to stay, because parents were literally just running away. I know in my neighborhood, I live adjacent to Williamson County, so it's a common conversation you have with other parents who, when they were getting nervous, they just left. So we hope that we've served you well. We're looking forward to this new school year, 2022, 2023. We hope to begin to shift this to a partnership with MNPS, a partnership with measurable goals. As I said, we don't have any slideshows because we weren't measuring anything yet, but we're hoping that we can shift to that. I know this has only been 1 year. And also a partnership with mutual benefits. So basically a parent-district partnership, whatever that looks like. I don't know what that looks like yet, but the hope, Director Battle and School Board, is that, we're hoping that you will help us to make that shift. We've seen in the statement for the school year, this upcoming school year LEA plan, that there are comments in there about family engagement. So there is hope there. We're hoping that that plan will turn into something useful to both the district and to parents. We're hoping that the folks in this room, this table right here and the table over there, we're hoping that we can all come together. We think that what's happened in the past 2 years is a break from the norm, but we can't go back to what it used to be like, We've had, as Emily, Ms. Masters mentioned, we have district-wide meetings, we have town halls, we have cluster meetings, and in those meetings you hear conversations like, I want my child to have their IQ tested, where do I go for that? I want to know if my child needs to go to a zone school. I get an email that says, what's the difference between a charter school and a magnet school? We have so many parents out there who have so many questions and aren't getting answers from folks who have real information. And most of those parents don't want to be told, oh, just go to the website. They want to talk to a person. So we're hoping that members of the PAC can help the district get information out to parents and useful information. So thank you again. And again, I said, I hope this is just the beginning and not the end. So if you have any questions on the report, any feedback from the way the year has been. Any questions for our liaison, our chair, vice chair? Please ask away.
Before you ask questions, I want to take a moment here and acknowledge that the Parent Advisory Council this year has, the success we've had has been driven solely and by the vision of BB right here. She won't recognize herself. I want to take a moment and recognize her. As Emily Masters had mentioned and BB said, we were rebuilding this year. And one thing BB was so good about was building the infrastructure so that with new officers next year, the handoff from website to Gmail accounts to social media accounts to who we talk to Mariana and Family Gate, all that stuff, the baton will be able to be handed off and more stuff and more things will be able to. The fact that we were able to do as much as we did this year while we were building the car while it was moving is phenomenal. And BB's sole focus this year and her advocacy has been all around having parents at the table. And so the Parent Advisory Council's success this year is really singularly visioned by her, and I want to take a moment to thank her and have you guys join me in thanking her for her leadership this year.
Well, thank you so much, Mrs. Hines, and to the entire PAC. We just appreciate you. I've been connected to the PAC finally, in the Pro-Com cluster, so thank you all for your help standing up the Pro-Com cluster PAC and working with historically disenfranchised communities to make sure that no parent's voice is lost, so thank you. With that, though, we will move on to governance issues. We've amended the consent agenda and have removed 1C, Board Policy 1.404, around public participation. Since we've already adopted the agenda, the consent agenda is adopted, but we will hear from 1.404. Mrs. Pooper-Walker?
Dr. Severe, should we pull that back up on the screen? What say you?
I think that would be fine. We can do that. You probably need to go ahead and dispense with the balance of the consent agenda.
So even though we've adopted the agenda?
You adopted it.
We'll go right
correct.
ahead.
You agreed that that's what you would do tonight, and now you're going to do.
All right. Can I have a motion to accept this consent agenda as it was previously amended?
So moved.
Second? Second. All right. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. Unanimous. So we will move on to 1.404 as Dr. Severe pulls up the new policy or the amended policy. Potentially amended policy. It's a policy.
Do we have to have a motion to discuss it?
We don't have, per Robert's rules, we don't have to have a motion yet. There we go.
Is that it?
All right, would anyone like to begin discussion? Either Mrs. Pooper-Walker.
So this is the policy related to public participation in board meetings, and in particular, what we were doing here was deleting a section on lines 7 and 8 that was a portion of the policy that we actually didn't adhere to, which was that delegations, an organization must select only one individual to speak on their behalf. I think we all know that we allow multiple people from the same organization to speak. And then the second change in yellow here on lines 12 through 14 is to attempt to address the issue of folks coming and reading statements on behalf of other people, which we have seen occur over the years fairly regularly. And so we had some questions and wanted to have further conversation on the board today. So I'll pass it back to you if you want to run this part.
Sure. So if we don't necessarily have to have a motion to have the conversation, is there anyone that wants to pose a motion?
I move approval of the amended policy, policy 1.404, public participation.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Open for discussion. Go ahead, Mrs. Tyler.
And I know you guys said that you touched on it a little bit before I got here. I'm sorry, I was a little late to governance committee. But I just have a lot of concern. I'm 100% fine with individuals may not delegate their time to another person who didn't sign up. I'm fine with that. It's the not allowing another person to read a statement on behalf of the person who signed up, especially if they are actually present and then have to leave. And I think the example that we have that's most freshly in our minds is the first board meeting in March, where we had a much longer director's report and then discussion about the director's report than anticipated. And it meant that the time for public participation to begin was not nailed down. There was no sense of when it was going to begin. And to me, the concern is if you have people who have signed up and who have showed up and who have it in their hands to talk, and the time keeps pulling on beyond when they expect it and they have to leave, I don't think that should preclude them from getting to say what they came to say just because we needed to have the discussion that we were having. I don't think we should truncate our discussions. I think we need to have our discussions. But I also want to make sure that the people who sign up to speak have the opportunity to do so. And that might mean, I like the idea of having this is the time where we start, and then that's what we need to do, whether it's a pause on something else and then moving forward and coming back to it, which would be kind of annoying, but it would at least provide a sense of schedule that just doesn't exist right now. So I just have concerns with not having a time that people can count on to know when it starts, so that they can prepare themselves and get childcare if they need it, and make sure that they have time to arrive and they're here, and that they don't have commitments afterwards that they have to get to, but so that they can make their plan to show up, and that they're not just stuck around whatever we have to talk about that night.
All right, Mrs. Elrod.
Thank you. So I support this change, and the reasons why I support it are a couple different reasons. First, we do not have a way to verify that people are who they say they are when they sign up. And at least about 40% of the addresses we get are fake addresses. So we have a couple concerns of, one, if they say they're going to delegate their space, is that we don't need to take, and we cannot take, the responsibility of, is this person acting in goodwill of taking someone else's space, and were they a true delegate that has been chosen by who the original speaker was? So that's a concern, and we've had that issue. Two, there's always the possibility of someone signing up for many spots and say, all of these people are potentially showing up, and those people not actually showing up. And then that 3 minutes that they are dedicated to being an extended amount of time because they're going to take up their entire group. We've not had that experience before, but I think that's only because people haven't realized that there's that potential massive loophole. And truly, we are so available that if you cannot come, that's why we have our email. Frankly, it's probably just best practice anyways to email us your statements, as we receive so many of them, and of course, specifically to your council rep. But I believe that we should have only the individuals that speak that are in attendance, and not take on a responsibility to figure out, are they who they say they are? Is this the actual message we were supposed to be receiving or not? Additionally, I think it's important for us to maybe discuss why we have moved the board conversations, because that was a part of the conversation that you missed. So we moved the board public participation to after director's report so that people could have more availability to come, as that has been a request since before I was on the board, as 5 o'clock is too early. So the only way to really handle that is to push it past director's report. Last meeting was an exceptional outlier of how far it can be pushed past, but it is an example of the problems it can create. The only way I can think of that we can maybe make these things happy is, of course, I would like to keep this language, but if we had a set time of, we will start public participation by this time, and that would require us probably to take a pause, which would not be great for our pattern of talking and discussion, but then we have at least a set start time for the public, then maybe we could consider that, though that would not be included inside this policy. But I think it's a best practice for us truly our hope for the board in agenda planning, and I hope it's okay that I'm speaking on behalf of the two of us, and you're welcome to correct me if I'm wrong, is to open up public participation more. There have been lots of requests for many years to reduce the amount of time people can have, like Williamson County, which is only 60 seconds, to 90 seconds, to a minute, to this, to that. We've tried to keep it at 3 minutes. Chair Buggs even keeps it at 3 minutes because that's her discretion, even when I frankly have been like, I'd cut it down to 2 because we have over 30 people. We need to have the whole conversation. And then additionally, we are trying to make it where people can attend more. There have been other suggestions that were not included. You can only speak about agenda items and those kinds of things. So truly, I understand the concern is people are in participation, whether they're teachers or parents or just a stakeholder, and then they have to leave for whatever family reason there is. I live that life too, I get that. But we have to be able to confirm that they are who they say they are and that it's the appropriate and correct message, and that one group doesn't jeopardize all the time, particularly when that likelihood is very there.
Mrs. Tyler? And then Mrs. Player-Peters.
When people sign up, you say that we can't verify their addresses and they're fake. So when they come here, do they have to show a driver's license or anything to prove that they actually are the person that they say they are?
No.
So then what would, that seems like if we're already not verifying who they are, then the argument that we can't verify that that person speaking rings hollow. We're already not doing that.
Well, hold on. Well, if you're finished, we'll let Mrs. Player-Peters go, and then you can go back to Sarah.
I mean, this is the tough part. As a former lobbyist, I have sat in front of many different types of public participation, and you can't make anyone happy. That's the difficult part of being in this democracy, because the hard part is if you work a hard shift and you work from 9 to 5, and the earliest you can get here with traffic may be 6, and then, and then we go through that, and that's one issue. Then you have some issues where, if you're the opposite person and you have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to start your day at 5 or 6, and then they're going to stay late. And then also if we have some difficult issues that people want to talk about, then you may have literally like council, where literally public participation goes on to literally 9, 10 o'clock at night before they even begin business. I have sat in council meetings where you start at 6:30 and council does not start until 10:30, 11, even late as almost 12, midnight. So no matter what will happen, it's not going to be conducive to any one person. I've been in part, I've seen where you wait until the very end. You wait till they do all the business, and public participation is at the end of all the business to be done. I've seen it like council, where you do it at the very beginning, and it's going to be done. So part of it is, do you change the time of the school board meeting? Do you do you can't make everyone happy. And so we have to put some kind of constraints on doing it. And I know it's unfortunate, but there's also more than one ways to communicate. I would say the most engaging part of engaging from a constituent level is actually not from the podium. It's actually direct conversations that you have with us on the phone. I spend 30 minutes on the phone with a constituent than 3 minutes of a one-way conversation with them at the podium. And so I think also part of it is a part of the civics education of the best way to engage is not always at the podium. It's effective, but it's also not the most engaging, as in, I know with me, if you're going to have a conversation, you're going to have a 30-minute conversation with me on the phone than a 3-minute one-way conversation. So also put in the other aspect, there's other ways for the public to participate with us, either emailing a statement, but also we have to create a culture of us being open to employees, to students, and stakeholders of there's more than one way to engage. And I mean, unfortunately, there's not one to do it. I mean, we can do Saturdays and we still won't be done. We can do Sundays. I mean, no matter what we do, someone's going to be is not going to be happy, and that's the difficult part of engagement. But I understand also of what your point is of having someone delegate. I've done that myself, being on the other side. But that's just the difficult part of trying to figure out how we do best practice.
Mrs. Elrod?
I mean, if we want to start checking to make sure that people are actual citizens of Davidson County or something along those lines, that would get real messy quick. The complaint that I have received multiple times since 2018 has been someone has delegated their own internal personal person to speak on their behalf, and that person has not done the job that they have wanted them to do. They've either gone off script or they've provided it incorrectly, and then it becomes my problem because they say, I didn't want them to say this. How come you didn't stop them? You saw my email in advance, and of course, I did, but I'm not going to stop somebody in mid-speech. So that is true. There's not a way for us to verify it. That's their job. But of course, friends get nervous or do whatever and go off the path of what that person's intention was or put words to their mouth that they did not appreciate. And that has been, frankly, pretty awkward in the past in some specific instances that I know of within my own constituent base. The intention, again, is that people are able to speak with what they are wanting to say, that they represent themselves, and that there is a transparency and a clearness to who those people are and what those messages are. It is very important that people are aware that our emails are open. Now, depending on individuals, I don't think any of us do constituent services on social media. Frankly, I think that's a bad practice anyway, so I'm glad that that's probably the case. But I do mostly text, phone call, email, sometimes mail, sometimes meeting with them, all those things. I think that's a better, more professional way of handling it than the one-off, as Ms. Player-Peter said. But again, the intention is, if you have a concern, to make sure that you are the person voicing that concern and that it's documented appropriately, not that we're taking that option away from you, because truthfully, it's probably best that you email it to us anyways, because that's the best way we can review it and forward it.
Go ahead, Ms. Taylor.
I would just feel a whole lot better if it wasn't quite so nebulous as to when it began and what to expect. And I think, I don't know that I can agree to not provide a support for somebody who doesn't have a choice about having to leave, when we've never given them an opportunity to know when to start. I mean, it's our job to be here, so we've got to be here till it ends, but it's not their job to come. They're coming out of their own time, away from their own family, away from their own responsibilities and whatever else they have going on. And so to say to them that our time's more important and you have to miss the giant chunk of your time instead of just knowing when you get to speak and knowing that you can come in, say your piece, and then go about your day or the rest of your day, then that's, I like the idea of having a set time or we're not going to start later than time or something to give a time frame that people can count on.
So go ahead, Dr. Gentry.
So I just want to clarify that, I heard part of the comments were, now that we've put the director's report ahead of public participation, we never know when it's going to start. Nobody ever knows when they're going to come to the podium. There's never been a time. So that argument doesn't justify the delegation. So I think we just need to be clear on what is the value to the delegation, because our rules, when we introduce public participation, it clearly says this is an opportunity for you to come before the board. And so if it's just to make sure your thoughts are shared with the board, to Ms. Elrod's point, there's myriad ways to do that. So I think we just need to be clear on the purpose of public participation. It's participation in this process and participation in this meeting. So that's, by definition, the expectation, and by description, you're showing up to the board to make your comment. To your point, though, about knowing when, I think the only workaround is to say, we're going to stop whatever we're doing at 5:30, 6 o'clock, whatever the time is, and start public participation. Because the other argument that nobody knows when they're going to speak, no one ever knows when they're going to speak. And even if I say we start at 5:30, there's 412 people signed up, you still don't know when you're going to speak. Because you can miss your turn because 15 people didn't show up, which has happened. You can miss your turn because I got somebody standing at the podium, delegated, and we've had that happen. I don't know if you remember, but we've had meetings where people have come back to that podium 3 and 4 times, reading statements on behalf of other people, and they all say the same thing. So I just want you to know, I'm the blame for that one you scratched out up there. Delegations must select only one individual to speak. We hear the same comment repeatedly from an organized group. I'm not talking about individual teachers, an organized group of people that have the same thing to say. But be it as may, getting to the heart of this, there is no guarantee, we can never guarantee, even if by setting a time, that you know when your turn is going to come to be at this podium. So we got to come up with some other something.
So I was a bit agnostic about this one also, but I was grappling with the idea that if I'm someone that's been disconnected or felt disenfranchised for a number of years, or for whatever reason had never been to a school board meeting, you don't really know what to do. You know, you might feel uncomfortable. You might feel like, well, do I sit here? Do I stand? Do I, you know, and so just thinking about those people who have never been able to present to us and they don't think about the idea that they can email us. They don't feel comfortable enough yet calling, or even though we're all accessible, there's something just about having your stuff heard sometimes. So I understand the desire to not, but I also know that we do offer a lot of different ways in media, you know, for people to engage with us. So I'm happy to be swayed one way or the other. But with that, if everyone has finished their comments, we can move on to a vote. Go ahead, Ms. Masters.
I had to run out for a moment. My initial thought on this one was like, great, because the first thing that pops to my mind is anyone can get up and say that they're speaking on behalf of so-and-so, and say anything they want to say. There's no way of verifying it. Then I got some emails, which is a really great way to connect with me, about concern around it. And again, concern around, you know, like high school teachers having to be there so early. And so I started thinking about that side of it. And my fallback is always research. And so I just kind of was looking into the history of public participation in the legislative process and sort of the, you know, the intention behind that. And there's actually some research to suggest that the only way that such a process can be effective is when the standards being set by leaders and by planners are the same as the expectations of those participating in that process. So it's sort of a, sorry, I know I'm getting existential. A little philosophical here on it, but we're attempting to create standards around a process that really, for the most part, isn't currently used as it was originally intended. I don't think the initial intention of a public presentation time at a school board meeting or at any sort of public meeting was to come and, you know, reprimand in a large general way. For example, that body. There are those who come to this meeting and do use it appropriately to speak directly to very specific policies and standards that we're considering putting into place. All that to say, the origins of it do also certainly date back to before we all had technology and ample access to technology. And so I think that's just another thing that we need to consider. While I appreciate what Chair Buggs was saying about, you know, maybe the only comfort level is with showing up at a meeting to speak. I think that I personally can honestly say that for anyone who's ever stood at that podium and said, I'm reading this statement on behalf of X, and here I go, it would have gotten just as much of my attention had it been sent to me via email. So anyway, there's my 2 cents worth on that.
Fine by me.
That was more.
All right,
That was like
we're
$2.
ready to-
I'm sorry.
Mrs. Poopa Walker.
I'm just going to add that this is reading something into the public record. And I think if you're going to read something into the public record, I think it should be done by the person that wrote it. And if you couldn't stay or you couldn't be here, then come back or send it via email, which is also a public record. So.
I can dig. Go ahead, Mrs. Elrod.
I have one clarifying question just in our process of signing up to be in public participation. I could have Googled this real quick on our website, but I'm sorry, Dr. Schwer, I'm going to maybe ask if he can answer this question real quickly. Sure. When we have somebody that applies to speak or puts their name on the list to speak, Aren't they notified that they could email us and they're directed to, like where those email addresses can be found?
Your website, your addresses are all on the website. They're all on the board page. When someone puts their name in, we ask for their name, we ask for their address, we ask for their email for contact. If we had a question about the sign up, we want to be able to get back in touch with them and say, hey, something's happened to the meeting tonight. It's been, all kinds of potentialities. But they do get a confirmation email back, and that's kind of their golden ticket, right? That's the email. We ask them to either, if they don't have it, we would say, hey, did you get an email? Can you show me the email? And they either show it to us on the phone if there's a discrepancy in the list. Now, on that same page is all your contact information. So I don't know that it explicitly says, we'd rather you not come to the meeting, please email. I don't think it says anything at all like that. I think we just offer multiple opportunities for them to contact any one of you 9.
Okay. I don't, so it's clear, I don't want it to say that at all.
Yeah, no,
Please don't say that. In no way. Please don't say that, because that's not true. I just want to make sure that people are more than clearly aware of how they can get in touch with us, because I think it's probably true for most of us that is the best way to reach out to us and have a conversation with a constituent, more than the 3-minute one-way conversation. Though it is a good way of doing it, it's not maybe the best way for some things that people are concerned about or have issues with. So I appreciate you making sure that everybody has our email addresses or knows where to find them. Thank you.
Dr. Gentry?
I don't think that your question, if I understood your question, I think your question was, do people know when they sign up for public participation that they can also email us? Was that not your question?
In our guidelines, it does state that they are, I think it does state, or we had talked about it stating.
Say that. So.
Oh, maybe not.
The question is, does the blurb at the top of the public participation page, which says, here's where you can sign up for public participation, you're allowed up to 3 minutes to speak, it says all that good stuff. It doesn't say if you're unable to attend, or you can also forward your comments to the board.
I think it actually does.
I think it does. I think that's what your question.
But I'll have to go back and check. I don't look at it every day, obviously.
Yeah, so let's just be clear. I think that's what your ask is. Does it clearly say what your options are?
And if it doesn't,
public participation?
it can.
Exactly.
Yes. Righty.
All right. I think we can
call the question.
Yes. I need a 2/3 vote to call the question, though. All in favor of voting?
Can we restate the motion, please?
Did somebody call the question?
Yes,
So
but
then
we have to vote on
whether or
the,
not
yes.
we're going to call the question.
I can rescind that motion. I can take that back.
Okay, well, if there are no other questions, we will move forward with our motion. Can someone repeat the motion?
I move to adopt the policies 1.404 on public participation as edited and presented in the governance committee meeting.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, motion passes. All against? All abstaining.
What is that?
What is? All right, and we will move on to committee reports.
Run your mouth for 20 minutes and then you ask.
All right, committee reports from advocacy. Mrs. Masters with the Parent Advisory Council and the Advocacy Committee. Also with your student board member timeline. Mrs. Player-Peters, around any updates around budget or potential next steps. Mrs. Puva-Walker around governance, a recap, and then Dr. Gentry, a report out of the director's evaluation that we recently submitted. All right, we'll begin down here. Mrs. Tyler, you haven't had teaching and learning. Okay, we'll start with Ms. Masters. Go right ahead.
Okay. So in the advocacy space, so in addition to the PAC work that we heard about, which is the wonderful side of advocacy, there's a lot going on at the state level. So leading up to spring break, I spent a few days at the legislature and have been in touch with quite a few members of our Davidson County delegation and beyond. And I know that our administration has been spending a lot of time on that as well. And I just want to continue to encourage citizens to be aware of what's going on at the state around K through 12 legislation. Be aware that there is a very strong interest in privatizing public education in the state of Tennessee and in taking away our funding, and in specifically taking funding away from the largest urban districts that serve the most minority students, the most English language learners. And that is what is going on. So I encourage you to reach out to legislators and let them know where you stand on that as public school parents. Then in the student member of the board effort, I just want to give y'all a little overview of that timeline, which we also discussed in the governance committee. I'm pulling it up right now. Sorry. So we are looking to roll it out April the 4th. And yeah, that's right. And then by April 26th, the applications will be due. And keep in mind that we will only be looking for a rising junior this year because we already have a rising senior on here, because it's, aren't you glad you signed on for 2 years of this?
He's like,
So very excited about that. And then the selection committees will meet the week of May the 3rd, and board members, you will all be getting an email from me inviting you to be part of the selection committee if you would like to do that. And then we will announce our selections the week of May 10th, and the onboarding will begin in August, and then the first board meeting of the student board members for next year will coincide with the first board meeting for grown-up new board members, or people, the people that act like grown-ups. They're kind of act like grown-ups. Okay. In September. So very, very excited to be entrusted with that process moving forward. And then so the insurance trust hasn't met since our last board meeting, I don't think. So, and all that's in the budget. And we're all just going to vote yes on all that insurance stuff. So I think that's it. Is that all my committees?
Yes. All right. Thank you very much, Mrs. Masters. Mrs. Player-Peters, around budget.
We had a budget meeting, it was an open discussion. Just to remind everyone, we will have community budget presentations or public meetings on March 30th at 4 p.m., March 30th, 4 p.m., April 5th, 6 p.m., April 5th at 6 p.m., April 7th at 5 p.m., April 7th at 5 p.m. They will all be virtual. You can look for more communications to roll out in the next couple of days about that. And just where we are in the process, Dr. Battle has presented a series of priorities. We've voted on the top 3. She made a budget presentation last week. Right now, we're at the open discussion. At the next budget meeting, we will vote on the aspirational budget to present to the mayor for him to determine an allocation amount, then which will be filed with the budget. Then it will go in front of council. Council will make their adjustments. They will approve it and then come back to us for us to approve an actual budget to begin on July 1. So we're in the middle of the process, so continue to advocate to us, but more importantly to the council and to the mayor's office, how you want education funded. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Player-Peters. Mrs. Poopa Walker.
Today in our governance committee meeting, we had discussed 10 different policies that were included in our agenda for tonight for folks to take a look. All 10 were adopted tonight. And that was it. Thank you.
Excuse me. Thank you very much. Dr. Gentry.
9. Jeannie, I think we only actually passed 9 of them, and then there's one that's going to be at the next.
Correct, thank you. There were 9. You're right. I was just counting down the line. Yes. One for further discussion.
Yeah.
Okay, so we conducted our summative evaluation of our one employee, Dr. Adrienne Battle, who did, I would want to just publicly thank you for the effort that you put into the evaluation with the collateral material and making things really accessible for us to use our new online system for providing feedback for our director. Overall, the feedback was positive with regards to the performance of our director. We did have some areas, and I don't want to go through the whole thing if that's okay, but this is all public record. But the evaluation was covering the signature initiatives as presented in our strategic plan. There was some feedback, just trying to find any areas of concern to highlight, if you don't mind.
I think there was on the equity roadmap.
That's what it was. I'm trying to find it. Yeah, so the equity roadmap was probably the biggest area of concern, just ensuring, and I'll just read it, that there were mixed reviews on this initiative. Overall, the district is applauded for making equity a priority. Understanding that this is a roadmap with some high-level year-one goals, the board is eager to see a greater sense of urgency with more measurable targets in place for the upcoming year/evaluation period. The big question still remains, what does an equitable school district look like, and are we truly on track to get there? Again, the mostly positive in all the other areas that were evaluated under signature initiatives. Overall, we want to make sure going forward that we have measurable goals for all of the signature initiatives, that we use baseline data where applicable, and that we indicate lessons learned and how they are being used to make adjustments. Some other thoughts, as chair of director's evaluation, would just like to say that we should strive for 100% participation in future evaluations. We are working through a timeline for the next evaluation, the next and future evaluation periods. We need agreement on frequency of future evaluations, so I will be asking that that's an agenda item, that we do a committee meeting at least prior to the next board meeting to start to begin that discussion, and then provide clarity on what the initiative is designed to do within that evaluation period. So again, we have several signature initiatives, and doing a broad sweep of all of them every evaluation period is probably not the most impactful evaluation or the most useful, the best use of Dr. Battle's time. You just want to make sure that expectations are clear on what we should expect, where we should expect to see movement during each evaluation period.
Okay, sounds good. Dr. Sevier, we'll get with you and Dr. Gentry to set a committee meeting around director's eval and next steps. All right, with that, we'll move on to announcements. Ebenezer, go right ahead.
All right, thank you. I don't have that many announcements. The only thing that I would like to mention is that to all juniors who took the ACT on March 1st, results were emailed and posted yesterday. So to anybody that didn't check, to check now and to make plans for, future testing. And if you have any questions about your test, because for many juniors, this was the first time they took the test, to contact their school counselors to ask them about their scores, how they can improve, resources to look for. I know that the district is also offering ACT seminars, and there are links on the social media, and that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gentry.
I'd just like to share with the public, those of you who may not know, of the passing of Dr. Tommy Morton Young, who passed away on March 11th of this year. She was a product of Nashville Public Schools, though we are hard-pressed to figure out which school that is, what high school she graduated from. She also graduated with honors from Tennessee State University and was the first African-American to graduate from Peabody College, which is now known as Vanderbilt University. She earned her doctorate degree from Duke. Dr. Morton Young held positions as professor and senior administrator at several distinguished colleges and universities, and ultimately retired from the University of North Carolina. She was the only woman to chair the North Carolina Advisory Committee to the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights, was a member of the Advisory Council for the National Institutes of Health, the Tennessee Economic Council on Women, the Tennessee Judicial Council, and served on the Native American Justice Council. Presided as president of the Davidson County Democratic Women and the American Association of University Women, also an executive committee woman of the Davidson County Democratic Party. Her awards and recognitions are many. Author of several books, 10 to be exact, and she founded the African American Genealogical and Historical Society of Tennessee and North Carolina. So just want to recognize this alum of Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools and her great contributions, just to remind everyone that there are great things. What is it that they say? It's biblical, so back up. Can anything good come from here? And yes, great things come from MNPS.
I love that. Thank you. Mrs. Walker.
I want everybody to turn on your radio, listen to Angeli on WPLN. This is Nashville tomorrow at noon. Going to be representing MNPS students, talking about student mental health and all the ways that we can support students. Deadline to apply for pre-K is March 31st, and kindergarten registration is open. Let's get all of our youngest ones signed up. And then Hillsborough Art Showcase is back April 1st.
Thank you so much for that, Mrs. Walker, as I frantically make sure that you all have a one Christopher in your classes next year. Mrs. Elrod?
Thank you. So tomorrow there is a information night on the Cambridge ACE exam for John Overton, and prom tickets are kind of at a close, so you can't buy your ticket, I believe, after tomorrow as well. Additionally, this week is their college and career planning week at Overton, so lots of opportunities for parents to learn about all the different EPSOs and other things that we provide at the school. So all of that. Additionally, Tusculum and Haywood have had community meetings with their Community Achieves rooms, and if you have some availability to be an additional volunteer at those schools or provide additional services, like they've been asking for Cheez-Its and other types of snacks, please let me know, and we will add that to our very lovely list of community partners. And then lastly, Pencil is turning 40. The Pencil organization, Pencil Foundation, was started in 1982, and they have a birthday extravaganza next week at their location on Cockrell. And so if you need additional information, please go to their website or any of their social media accounts, and they would love for you to celebrate with them and the good work that they do inside of our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Player Peters?
Yes, I want to echo Dr. Gentry's condolences to Dr. Morton Young's family. If you've ever been in her presence, the grace and dignity that she possessed made any person better just being in her presence. I also want to say Happy Kurdish Heritage Month to our Kurdish students and their families, that I hope you celebrate your culture and history with pride, and we're glad that you are residents and citizens of Nashville, even though the situation how you got here was not ideal, but the fact that I'm proud to represent the Kurdish community in my district, but also they've been a wonderful added asset to our community with things they have done in South Nashville, but also to whole Davidson County. So congratulations.
Thank you. Mrs. Masters?
No announcements tonight.
Mrs. Tyler?
Just a reminder that the Promising Scholars registration deadline got extended until March 31st. So the pre-K application deadline and the Promising Scholars registration deadline are both on March 31st now.
And Angeli?
Okay, so I hope everyone had a nice and safe spring break. As always, it's nice to hear from other MNPS ambassadors about their experience and future plans, so thank you to the ambassadors from Hunters Lane and Mcgavock. I just want to give a quick shout out to those MNPS students involved with Tennessee Senate Bill 2064, the Tennessee Student Voter Act, but specifically I wanted to highlight the leadership of Matthew Maroney, a fellow senior student at UMFOG, as he promoted and spearheaded the news to students about the bill that was presented earlier today in the Senate committee. So Matthew actually testified in support of the bill that hopes to increase voter registration and thus voter turnout, specifically for students in the state of Tennessee. And I thought just speaking in this board floor was intimidating, but our students are speaking in the Senate chambers. So as someone who participated in youth and government, as well as debate and civil policy, it makes me happy seeing my peers being involved in matters that directly impact the future generations. So with that, I cannot stress enough the importance of voting. So those who are 18 and older, please register to vote if you haven't done so already. Thank you.
Thank you. And we had Mr. Little, but I don't think he jumped back on the screen. So be there no further business. This meeting is adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.